many still believe that Antifa was a part of January the 6th. How do you answer that question? We'll start with you, Richie McGinnis. How do you answer that question when people say, was Antifa there?
I answer the question of it's difficult to answer that question even at an Antifa protest. And, that's because Black Bloc that's the whole purpose of the attire, is to mask your identity and to not be clear, if you have any affiliations. And just because somebody wears Black Bloc doesn't mean they're Antifa. And just because somebody, whatever sports MAGA hat, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a Trump supporter. Usually you have to interact with those people and actually ask them those kind of questions. And
so you're saying, when you say that, you're saying people can appropriate each other's attire?
Yeah, I've seen it all over the country. I think probably all of us have to a certain extent. So my only point there is that answering that question definitively in a binary way is pretty difficult. Next just said that Andy No was there. He just claimed that Andy No was there too. So I can definitively tell you that Andy No was not there. But as for Antifa, I think that's a more difficult question.
I saw that post as well. And certainly when you have fringe of the fringe kind of outliers like Jaden X, John Sullivan, it becomes harder to sort of parse everything. But we'll get to that. Ford Fisher, how do you answer the question, was Antifa there?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the point that Richie is making, but I would say that if it's a person who's saying, I love Donald Trump, and they're wearing a Trump hat, like, I'm not, while there can be room for exceptions, such as I'm sure we're going to talk about John Sullivan, I have not seen any evidence that anybody there was really anything other than what they were. There was an AI company that had some kind of facial recognition program, and they saw that there was one person at the Capitol who there's a photo of that person on an Antifa website. Well, whose photos with their face show up on Antifa websites, right? They're not posting profile photos of themselves. They were doxing somebody, right? It was a photo of them with a far right person, and it was Antifa trying to sort of like expose them or what have you. That was fake, right? The other one was that there was the individual with the horns, right? And the horn guy was originally kind of miscast as some kind of a leftist because there was a photo of him once at a Black Lives Matter protest. And most of the original usage of this image cropped out the sign that he was carrying, which said, Q sent me. And so the only now evidence that I've seen, which I think is pretty clear, of somebody who infiltrated it who does not actually have MAGA beliefs, is this John Sullivan character. It's pretty obvious that he's sort of a general instigator. Who knows if he has political beliefs or if he's just there for the violence, as some might say.
Brendan, how do you answer the question when people ask you, was Antifa there at the Capitol?
Well, I think Ford said it best in a really detailed way there. There's always going to be that room for people to misrepresent or to don somebody else's attire in an attempt to sort of put themselves as that type of person. But from what I saw from the types of people that were there in terms of how they were chanting and what they were saying to each other, it was pretty clear that it was Trump supporters there and that it wasn't really an Antifa infiltration thing. Now, with that being said, may there be individual instances where that has cropped up here or there that somebody was present? It's possible, but I've seen no sort of wide-scale evidence of that. Honestly, not even minuscule evidence, because I think Ford detailed it pretty well there in the specific examples that people were trying to cite. I would add in on that the horn guy, the QAnon guy. I had actually seen him at a Trump rally in June of 2020. I captured a video of him outside. It was when Donald Trump was going to Phoenix, and he was there, and this was all the way back in June. So unless this was some extremely long-term sort of endeavor, I think that we have to just go with what he was saying he was, and that's this QAnon supporter, and that he might have been present at those Black Lives Matter protests, but was not espousing those types of views.
I would just add that Jake Angeli, the name of the person we're talking about, although he goes by Q Shaman, he lives in Arizona, right? He's a well-known pro-Trump person within the Arizona activism scene. So to people on the internet, I mean, I can understand why people could sort of be fooled into this sort of thing. But to people who are actually kind of like familiar with activism, both BG and I have met him. I think it's pretty obvious.
You have anti-fascist action and you have anarchist action. So someone like Sullivan could be culturally from the left and identifying more as anarchist, taking actions that are more chaos related as opposed to being there as a quote unquote Antifa or anti-fascist. Now, where we're missing Antifa's involvement is they had videographers that were hanging in the back that didn't go to the front lines, but were sending video and putting it out along with talking points. So if you wonder why in the 2 p.m. hour or 3 p.m. hour, we're already getting talking points about this being about race, when all four of us, well, let me just ask the question. Did you think any of this from the people and their grievances was about race?